that's an entirely different discussion, but it's another layer.
And it turns out that it's perfectly legal. So the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery in the United States states that no citizen shall be used for slavery unless they're convicted of a crime. And it doesn't say what level of crime. It could be I'm sure it's not a parking ticket, but it doesn't say what level of crime, just says convicted of a crime. So basically, once you're sentenced to prison, you're now eligible for slave labor. And those guys do slave labor work, we always know the chain gang back in the day are making license plates they used to portray, but they could take those people on a 20-year tour and slave labor them, and it technically is perfectly legal, and put them back.
And now you can commit a crime by posting the wrong thing on social media.
Oh yeah, and we're seeing right. Well, and we're seeing they're tightening. They legalize marijuana in a lot of states, but they're gonna make it to where you can't criticize the government. They're gonna get rid of free speech, so you guys can go ahead and smoke up, because we are really seeing some. I notice around the world, and I don't want to get you in trouble on Rumble, man, and it's live, but around the world, a lot of people are losing their rights much faster than us. And the common denominator of the countries that gave up their guns. Once the guns go, and you know what I mean? I don't want to sound like a super right whatever guy, but that's what happened. Australia gave up their guns. It was a few years later. They can't criticize the government. The free speech went. The COVID lockdowns were absolutely draconian. Same thing in Canada. Same thing in South America. Yeah,
because what are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
You have no way of pushing back.
It turns out
not afraid once the guns are coming.
It turns out the police really almost enjoy beating up on the populace when they're ordered to make everybody go back in their house. Like, the police really fell in line with a lot of the really crazy restrictions that they put on the populace in these countries. So currently, a lot of people don't know this. I want to say this out for the crowd, and a lot of people don't know this. So I'm working with, I touched on the learning software company, and there's a company that I hired to do animations in Brazil. And I was talking to them, and he said that in Brazil, South America has had a domino of countries that had questionable elections recently. And so they said there's no way that they have certain areas in the country that no one's ever voted in a certain direction, that all of a sudden overwhelmingly they voted to let this guy in that nobody wanted. Sounds familiar.
Right.
But in Brazil, if you say publicly on any kind of media, or if you say that you think the election was rigged, you can go to jail. And you also don't have the right to see a lawyer. So if you go to jail for any other crime, you get the right to have a lawyer, to have legal representation. But in Brazil, if it's under questioning the election results, you don't get legal counsel. You can be held indefinitely. So that's that's real. That's today. You can look that up. And a guy told me that. I went, are you kidding me? Is that right?
Well, that's why we're on Rumble. I mean, we're suspended. That's
why we're doing this on Rumble right now, because YouTube is.
I want to be clear that I'm not trying to get you guys kicked off Rumble. It's just this is where the conversation went with us quick. So we can move on.
There's so many. Everybody on Rumble talks about the election fraud. It's not a secret over here, but we're suspended on YouTube right now. That's why we're live on Rumble, and we're trying to get as many people to subscribe over here, because who knows what's happening with that platform. So if you haven't subscribed, please tell your friends and join us and subscribe over here, because we don't know what's going to happen there. But
real quick, I just wanted, so YouTube is all of a sudden is now going back through years old videos and hitting us strikes. on 3-4-year-old videos.
Oh wow!
So they're clearly. I don't know if they're ramping up across the board right now, or if it's just we are getting more of a target all of a sudden. But they're ramping something up right now, and they're getting us on old videos.
Well, on that subject, I mean, so I see it, and I talk about this quite a bit in interviews and in groups. So I do less interviews these days and more live groups with people through the Patreon. I was going to say with you guys, like, I feel like I've missed out on a lot of the bigger audience because I've been on Patreon so long.